It's been 2 weeks since the release of 2.2 patch, and I'm going to put some of my thoughts on the Honkai Star Rail 2.2 story. This is my interpretation and how I thought of the story, and honestly, I'm just another person putting my opinion out there. Don't take it to face value, as everyone has a different opinion on the story, but let's get started. I genuinely enjoyed the story, thought it was a banger, and had a lot of fun as it answered a lot of questions and theories I had. I had conversations with a couple of my buddies on Discord a month before the 2.2 patch had dropped. Theories like Gallagher's connection to the original Watchmaker, Mikhail, Misha's connection to Mikhail, Gallagher not being a bad guy but showing the real Panaconi through the means of death. I had a pretty good time discovering these answers that I've been looking for, and there's a lot of aha moments here and there. However, there are some things that I didn't like and I did like. Enjoying the story is one thing, but it's not a surprise that the dialogue in Honkai Star Rail has memeable choices, which it adds flavor to if you want to be the serious or the nonchalant trailblazer. There was one occurrence, and that was where you were at the Soulglad Festival with Firefly, March, and Himiko, and you were asked to give a comment to Aiden, who was the host of that festival. And I'll be honest, there wasn't a choice that I really liked because it was the way it was translated from CN, and it just felt out of place. I pretty much just didn't really care after that. One of my favorite parts during the story was when you reached the Charmony Theater and when you were listening to, and if you did actually listen to the Outer World music, it gave me a nostalgic feel because it definitely reminded me of Ocarina of Time when you entered Ganon's castle for the first time and the organ starts playing. They're not similar music, but it's the feeling of when you're going to like complete the end of the game or the story. It happens again when you awake from Edna's dream, when you meet up with Robin for, I guess, it was at the end of the game, or at the end of the story, sorry. The organ starts to play again, but it's a much more darker tone compared to the Charmony Theater, where it was a bit more enlightening, but also mysterious. Here's a example of both Outer World previews. Music played a huge part in the atmosphere by setting the tone, and I think Hoyo nailed it between those two parts. So that was probably one of my favorite. I think the characters are all great and they play their parts. Characters like Boothill, who only appear in the beginning areas of Penacony, but we don't really get to see a whole lot of Boothill in action besides him pulling out his gun or like calling the Galaxy Rangers. But his personality wise, I think he's fine where he is, but I do hope that in 2.3 they do show more of Boothill. Robin, who is pretty much connected to Sunday, so you would pretty much have to read the 2.2 story and kind of figure out her role and where she plays. In my opinion, it didn't seem too hard. She didn't get a whole lot of screen time and dialogue, so you would have to kind of give or take there. Sparkle, Aventurine, and especially Argenti didn't get much spotlight and felt like they were just there for a cameo. However, I do cover a bit of Sparkle later in the video. I am curious about how Argenti save Aventurine, but I'm doubtful that Hoyo will cover that in detail. I've seen that you need to pull for Aventurine to see a text from him that he survived, which does suck if you don't have the character. I absolutely love the final fight of Penacony. The fake out twist was definitely interesting, and the fact that it felt a little bit too happy and real because it happened so suddenly caught me a bit off guard. So you question yourself, wait, that's it? That was the whole thing? Lastly, the cutscene with Acheron disrupting the whole dreamscape and Boothill calling the Galaxy Rangers was a very cool and pretty scene. Overall, I think 2.2 story was really good. No question to ask. Now, that was just my summary of how I thought of 2.2. It's just only covering the story aspect, but this next part of the video, I'm just going to go into detail on each individual character in the 2.2 story and pretty much what I got out of their role in the story. There should be timestamps in the description about each character that appeared, so if you just want to look for a certain character and what I thought of them, you can just go to the description and click on the timestamp. Starting off with the Watchmaker, it definitely blew my mind that they revealed Misha's connection to Mikhail, first implied as a memory zone meme, then into the original Watchmaker himself, or a clone I should say. It was both enlightening but also sad at the same time, as Mikhail had already passed away. The cutscene of Mikhail growing up over time, traveling with the Nameless, returning to Penacony to stop the families from using the Stellaron, and leaving Gallagher, Micah, and Clocky to help the next Trailblazers. He never stopped and continued trailblazing and believed in the next generation of Trailblazers. It was kind of when we learned the true goal of the Watchmaker's legacy, and I guess in a way, getting the Watchmaker's hat is pretty much his legacy, and you're basically going to stop Sunday and the families from using the Stellaron. This was also indicated by Gallagher, the beginning of the 2.2 story, where the Watchmaker's legacy was actually a facade. It was a sad moment when we switched to Misha's point of view for the last time, and the way Misha slowly walks up to the stairs, explaining the will of the Trailblaze, the real reason why we're able to have access to the Clockworks mechanic. It was definitely a very eye-opening, as the reason why we were able to see Misha and Clocky is because only Trailblazers were able to see them. And it was pretty much a big reveal on who the Watchmaker was, and kind of the whole point of them sending out invitations in the first place. Acheron's story was definitely very interesting in a way that she wasn't just some overpowered emanator of nihility. She came to Penacony with a purpose of fulfilling a promise, which we do find out at the end of the 2.2 story, which was actually one of the Nameless, Tiernan, which was one of the companions of Mikhail. This led her to faking her title as a Galaxy Ranger to lure out Boothill and fulfill Tiernan's dream, which was to be reunited with his Galaxy Rangers, but also be in Penacony with Mikhail, with a singular relic that he had gave Acheron, which was a bullet. I guess another thing about Acheron was the name drop. Raiden, Bosun Mori, Mei, and for those who played Honkai Impact 3rd, it was a nod to Raiden Mei, but I don't know too much of the Honkai Impact 3rd story, but if you want to know about that lore, you go watch other videos about it, but it was pretty irrelevant. Besides, let's just appreciate the fact that she name dropped. We might not know the meaning of Bosun Mori is, because they don't say it in the game, and you'd have to go look out, or you'd have to go look it up. That's kind of it for Acheron. Boothill definitely served, in my opinion, a plot device, and he just wanted to hunt down Acheron for basically faking the Galaxy Ranger title. When Acheron told Boothill the main reason why she wanted to contact Boothill in the first place was to fulfill a Galaxy Ranger's promise, which was Tiernan's relic, bringing back Tiernan. There wasn't a whole lot of scene for Boothill, and he didn't get a lot of whole action besides just calling down Galaxy Ranger and pointing his gun at people. But I do hope that in the 2.3 patch, he's able to get some more like scenes or actions about Boothill and all that stuff. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Sparkle and kind of her button situation, saying that it's a red herring. Maybe the buttons will have a purpose in the next patch, or Sparkle just being there serving no purpose in the patch. Honestly, I do agree that Sparkle giving out buttons was pointless at first. However, once you continue on with the story, when she interacts with Sunday Robin, it's pretty much indicated and implied that Sparkle knew from the beginning what Sunday was planning to do with Penacony. You could see why Sparkle was very obsessed with the Charmony Theater in particular, where everyone's going to gather, and you start seeing why she's handing out the buttons in the first place. Because one, she either knows that the Astral Express is going to face off Sunday, but if they fail to subdue Sunday, the button was some sort of backup plan to force them out of Edna's dream by death, or knew the Stellaron was in the theater and just wanted to mess with Sunday for fun, because that's the Aeon Aha would do. Although this is just a theory, I think Sparkle was cooking up something, but the Charming Theater never happened. However, maybe something bigger is going to happen, but we'll see what Toyo is going to cook with this one. So, coming up with Firefly, I think continuing from the 2.1 into 2.2 felt very awkward. I kind of wish they replayed the 2.1 ending where the Trailblazers meeting Sam, which happens to be Firefly. I felt like if they transitioned from that cutscene easing into the regular cutscene, I felt like it would have been smoother, but that's just classic Hoyo. I think it was pretty cool that Firefly tagged along with the Astral Express, and she had a moment of her own when she made her speech to Sunday about controlling Penacony. It was definitely very cool of her character. But right after the Soul Glad Festival, Firefly leaves to do her second death, and apparently Acheron hints at this at the end of 2.2. So I hope we get to see what Firefly did for us while we were basically fighting Sunday and get some form of closure in the next patch. I think the biggest takeaway I got from Firefly's character is during her speech to Sunday and when she was talking about Blade, about living as Firefly. Firefly wants to die as a human being and not as a weapon called Sam. She questions why we follow a script made by Elio and wants to be in control of her life, choosing where they would want to end compared to something that's already predetermined. This looks like it might spark her path as a trailblazer. However, that's probably a very far-fetched theory. She's still formerly a Stellaron hunter, and of course there are going to be many theories and stuff like that, but I do hope that they flesh out her character even more and her role in Penacony in the next patch and give us some form of closure what she did for us for her second death. Alright, getting to the last two, Robin and Sunday. We do get a lot of lore dropped between both characters. Robin, who believes in helping the weak and accepting reality to pursue true happiness, while Sunday wants the same. However, he wants to control the weak by rejecting their reality and accepting this false but perfect reality. These ideals clash when they speak to the residents of Penacony, and Robin being the prominent figure of light, while Sunday represents the dark. They argue between the state of morality of living in Penacony. Robin, in my opinion, definitely didn't have a lot of light after she disappears with Walt and doesn't really show up until the very last fight with Sunday. However, I think Robin in the story does serve her role, her purpose in the way that she opposes her brother, and I'm sure we'll get some type of closure in the epilogue of Penacony. Sunday, on the other hand, I felt like did a pretty good job solidifying his role as villain with his numerous yapping of the bird in the cage metaphor. The build up to why he turned to order instead of harmony was good, especially the confession stand part and Robin getting injured, because it was that exact moment Sunday switched. Although it did take quite a bit to get to that point, you can kind of see where he stands with like multiple times he repeated the bird and cage metaphor and the questions he asked to like the Astral Express crew. So it definitely did feel very long to get to the point, but the payoff by the end does pay off. So I really like the design of Robin's boss. Not Robin. I really like the design of Sunday's boss. And one of the parts of when you're fighting during the second phase, when Robin comes in to help, felt like an Avengers Endgame moment. It felt like the whole crew was getting back together again, and it definitely was very, very good. I'll just keep it at that. When it hits the third phase of the fight, you start to hear like Robin's lyrics, and that's when it truly transitioned to like an anime moment, like an anime battle where the whole gang is fighting this one villain or the one antagonist that everyone hates. And there's so much peak, so much cinema. It was just that good. It's not something you could describe in words, but you just had to be there kind of feel. It was really well done by Hoyo, and it felt very emotional, I guess. I'm not gonna lie. When you beat Sunday, the end cutscene where the instrumental hits and the story is just about to end, it was just really good, and it was truly an anime moment. Like, it was so anime as hell. That's kind of it for like Robin and Sunday. We're about to reach the end of the video, and I just want to say some closing remarks. I do think Penacony has the best story, in my opinion. Of course, there were times where a lack of like emotion or expression in a cutscene could have been done better, but that's kind of, again, classic Hoyo. It did take a while to get to the point, but I do believe that the payoff pays well. Taking from arranging like 4 or 5 hours, then reaching to the finish line where you fight Sunday, it definitely pays off in the end. And I hope that in the future that this is how the story goes, and like if we travel to like different planets and stuff. There may be some details I might have missed or things I might have just misinterpreted completely, or I might have left things out because I think it wasn't important, or it could be made in a different video. But again, you can't fit everything in the story. And if they were to add everything, people would just complain that the story is just too damn long. I think they did a pretty good job on delivering the story. It's just a little bit too long, I guess, to get to the point. I genuinely enjoyed the story from beginning to end, and I also want to remind people that the story is not finished. So there is still the epilogue in 2.3, but it's kind of it.